Just over a year ago, my editor-in-chief gave me an early birthday present, if you can call it that, with a review key for a little game called Lilies, Quietest of the Nights. It's this dark fantasy-style Metroidvania created by Japanese developers AdGlobe and Livewire that follow the journey of a young alabaster maiden through this miasmic-stricken land filled with horrors and aberrations, calling on her distorted allies to cut through the blight and restore the kingdom to its former glory. Ender Lilies struck a chord with me in a way that many games often don't, permanently imprinting the experience on my psyche to the point that I was compelled to blab on about how amazing the game was, considering it a true hidden gem and amongst the greatest within its genre. It ended up on my top 10 games for the year, falling short only to Shin Megami Tensei 5. Just over a year later, I find myself diving back into the world of Land's End, embarking on a New Game Plus adventure from the comfort of my Steam Deck, just to confirm if my prior assertions remain true. Every demon slew is a hollow victory, every broken soul cleansed is yet another burden carried. I once again feel my heartstrings being tugged by the unwavering sacrifice and devotion to duty by one of such short stature. Today, I want to re-experience the plight of the White Priestess with you, and explain why you should absolutely play Ender Lilies, Quietest of the Nights. Before we get started, please consider hitting that like button after watching this video, and subscribing if you're interested in game reviews and long-form video essays about game development. I'm kind of branching out from the content that I typically make with game reviews and journal-style videos, but if you're into developer and series retrospectives, genre breakdowns, or just checking out the weird side of gaming, please hit that subscribe button. I'm aiming for 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you. Now, back to Ender Lilies. Amongst the dilapidated halls of a decaying temple, a lone spirit weaves through the overgrowth to find a sullied altar. Sleeping atop the platform lies a maiden emitting a consecrated glow. Awakened by the phantom, our protagonist finds herself in a dingy alcove of what was once an illustrious house of worship. Left without her memory, the apparition ushers her to take on the mantle of those who came before her, whose purpose is to heal a broken land from a downpouring fetter that has mutated her people. Ender Lilies, Quietest of the Nights tells the story of Lily, the last White Priestess, a young girl with the power to absorb the blight, an affliction that transforms people into undead abominations. Upon her travels, she will find no survivors, yet encounter powerful monstrosities of those who once were. By defeating these revenant malformations, more of the overarching story is revealed of how the reigns of death came to the Kingdom of End, by way of personal recollection of each individual's final days. There is little narrative shared between major encounters by way of characters communicating to one another. Instead, the diaries of prominent casters and warriors are scattered about each of their assigned areas, providing the motivations of these individuals, how they battled the blight, how they attempted to survive, and how they only wished to be with their loved ones during their final moments. You learn about tragic heroes like Julius, the illegitimate son to the king and amongst the most powerful knights of the Bastion. Endlessly chasing the recognition of his monarch father, he leads his armies against the legions of undead to allow the White Maidens the opportunity to repel and purify an ancient blighted lord. Though when the reigns of death came to the Kingdom of End to spread the blight, it transformed not only the civilian population into these abominations, but also his legendary deathless knights, cursed with immortality after being forced to drink the deathless elixir. Seeking his father's assistance, he learns that the king himself was far too obsessed with his own pursuit of immortality that he was willing to sacrifice the lives of Julius's comrades and subjects to meet his goals. In his last moments before his mind is overcome by the blight, Julius commits patricide and is forever imprisoned in the throne room, waiting for that day that someone ends his eternal suffering. There are no happy endings for the people in Ender Lilies. Though the execution is different, tales of tragedy befalls the denizens all the same. The only incentive for Lily to press on is to ensure that despair doesn't befall yet another soul, which is to her own destruction as she continues to absorb the blight from these pitiful beings. Her pure white appearance begins to fade into something far more tainted and deformed. with hooks and tentacles as the blight slowly consumes her. That said, Lily is more or less useless on her own, aside from being able to dodge oncoming death blows. It is by way of her guardian spirits that she can defend herself through this accursed territory. The 26 spirits Lily can befriend are split up into 2 categories: main skill spirits and sub-skill spirits. Main skill spirits have a more straightforward approach to their abilities, often serving as Lily's core attack option with linking combos that either have unlimited uses or a relatively large amount of ammo. They also sometimes come with a useful utility skill, like Garrod's giant hammer ability that not only sends shockwaves out against the enemy, but more importantly breaks pustulant terrain barriers beneath Lily, so she can explore previously unattainable areas. Or like Ulf's Bloody Knight's claws, allowing Lily to cling to walls and scale otherwise unreachable heights. Finally, each main skill spirit can execute a last rite or a super attack that wreaks havoc and deals massive damage. Sub-skill spirits, on the other hand, have a more niche use. They can't be called on as frequently as their main skill counterparts and follow a more linear style of execution, yet still serve as a valuable tool for dealing copious amounts of damage. Calling upon the Western Merchant summons a bird-like creature that will continuously shoot off fireballs towards an enemy until his mana source runs dry, which is great for one-on-one encounters where you just need a consistent stream of damage while dodging from life-threatening attacks. There are also allies like the Floral Sorceress and the Forsaken Fellworm, who, while are only summoned for a single attack, their utility can be found in specific setups or combo extensions that keep the damage flowing, sort of like an assist character in a team-based fighting game. Spirits can be placed on one of 2 action palettes, assigning an ally to the X, Y, and B button. Palettes can be swapped out on the fly, allowing you to adjust your combat capabilities to the situation. While exploring, I usually kept one palette for combat and another for more utility-based abilities or skills to help me with my movement. Then when I was approaching a difficult boss fight, I'd split up my palettes between long-range and short-range combat. This way I can subject the enemy to a flurry of sword strikes from my Umbral Knight or overhead attacks from the Dark Executioner. Then play keep away as I healed, using Dark Witch Elaine's long-range firebolts or the Falling Archer's deadly arrows. Each of the spirits offer Lily plenty of options in engaging the enemy and incentivizes the player to experiment and see what really works best for them. Speaking of engaging the enemy, combat is brutal. There's no mincing words about it. Lily is one of the most squishy characters I've ever controlled, as Ender Lilies offers little options in defending yourself. Emphasis is placed on your ability to either dodge or deflect oncoming attacks, with a very small window of execution. The only assured improvements you'll see when you level up is a meager damage boost. Maximum health is increased by finding a little trinket sprawled across the hellscape that will raise your maximum hit points in increments of 5 or 20. Your only method of increasing your defense modifiers is by way of these special relics that are also scattered across the kingdom, although there are far more practical artifacts competing for your limited accessory slots. You will find that death is a welcomed friend, as it will introduce itself over and over again. Lily can maybe stand 3 solid hits from a major enemy before being whisked back to a save point. Your saving grace is found in the finite number of prayers that you can use between rest stops. These prayers are reminiscent to the Estus Flask mechanic from the Dark Souls games, although Ender Lilies is far more stingy with giving you more healing salves than what you start off with. All of these factors present a very demanding experience. As you approach the late game, bosses are stacked with gratuitous amounts of hit points that you will meagerly chip away at while they throw these massive 5-frame invulnerable attacks that cover half the screen, taking a chunk of your health bar with it. As with other Dark Souls-like games, it is a process of identifying telegraphed moves, reacting to them, and whiff punishing. But what makes me appreciate Ender Lilies even more is that every encounter encourages a different set of skills and relics. Each boss fight is unique in a way that it's never a one-size-fit-all approach, making me feel vulnerable at the start of every encounter and accomplished upon my eventual victory. To further enhance the game's challenges and extend its replayability, New Game Plus adds additional modifiers to increase the game's difficulty with the Blightborn mode. Blightborn modes allow you to alter the stats of Lily and the enemies by disabling prayers, increasing damage and enemy hit points by up to 10 times the original value, setting player level caps, and even implementing a one-hit kill mode. Before I begin wrapping up this video, I also want to acknowledge the immaculate work that was done with Ender Lilies OST. Mili is a Japanese indie band that fuses electronic, classical, and post-classical music while wielding a mastery in ambience. Their previous works include composing for Goblin Slayer, Ghost in the Shell, and Project Moon's upcoming sequel to Lobotomy Corporation, Limbus Company. It cannot be understated when I tell you that each theme fits the assigned area perfectly. Tiptoeing through the forest of the cliffside hamlet is accompanied by this slightly lighthearted melody plucked from nylon strings and the harmony of a young woman's hums. The slow, monotonous bass line of the twin spires stirs this ever-encompassing anxiousness that is further accentuated by a flutter of alto notes, confirming the fears that this was once a place of sanctuary, but no longer. Every somber note played during the encounters with Guardian Sisters Silva and Sigrid just tears at your core, while the terrifying drones of the abyss will often having you look over your own shoulder for fear of what can't be seen. Each of these songs are specially crafted and designed to be both bittersweet and tantalizingly beautiful, affirming the overarching theme of Ender Lilies as a whole, a journey marred with despair and burdened by wistful optimism. Ender Lilies Quietest of the Nights, by most accounts, may not be a perfect game, but I wholeheartedly believe that it dances with perfection. It does nothing groundbreaking within the Metroidvania genre, perhaps wearing its influences a bit too blatantly on its sleeves. But the magic found in Ender Lilies is done so through the world building accompanied by a mournful and eclectic soundtrack. The level of detail put into the landscapes and character models is exceptional and translates beautifully for players who wish to take their experience on the go with the Nintendo Switch or on the Steam Deck. Ender Lilies is a game that has you hanging onto the last threads of hope and make you yearn for a resolution that never quite presents itself. It is a tale of tarnished innocence being stolen away and replaced by the burden of sacrifice. Yet even after purifying the miasmic rains, the uneasiness continues to linger long after the controller is put down, pulling at your heartstrings and calling you to redeem Land's End once more. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for your patience with this video. The last few weeks have been a bit hectic between starting university again as well as work picking up as we enter our busy season. This video was supposed to come out a week ago, but my old computer bit the dust, so I needed to get a brand new rig. Regarding Ender Lilies, I'd love to hear about your experiences with it within the comments below, or just tell me about some of your other favorite Metroidvania style games. New video shouldn't be too far off as the script has already been crafted, so until next time, take care guys.